The night Kwon Jae-hyun decided to ruin his own life, he was wearing a watch that cost more than most people's cars. He didn't know that yet, that it would ruin him. He thought he was just making a bet. He thought it was just a game. He was wrong. The rooftop lounge at the top of Kwon Tower sits 42 floors above Seoul's Gangnam district, and on the rare nights Jae-hyun opens it to guests. The city below looks like a jewelry box spilled across black velvet. Beautiful. Ordered. Everything in its place. Jae-hyun likes things in their place. He sits at the center table, always the center, never the edge, with three men who have known him since boarding school in Switzerland. Min-jun, who runs the second-largest tech firm in South Korea. Suhan, whose family owns half the shipping lanes between Busan and Singapore. And Daniel Cho, Korean-American, loud, the only one who makes Jae-hyun laugh genuinely. The four of them have a tradition. Once a year, on the anniversary of their graduation, they drink the most expensive whiskey Min-jun can source and they make one bet. Not for the money. They all have enough money to make the concept nearly meaningless. They do it for the bragging rights. For the story. Last year, Suhan bet he could get a private audience with a reclusive Japanese tech mogul within 60 days. He did it in 41. The year before, Min-jun bet he could learn to play Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in 3 months. He couldn't. He paid his forfeit, funding an entire year of Daniel's charity foundation, and didn't blink. Tonight, it's Jae-hyun's turn to propose. He swirls his whiskey. The ice makes a single clean sound against crystal. Any woman, he says. It isn't a question. It's a statement. Dropped into the conversation like a stone into still water. In this city, 30 days. I can make her fall. Daniel sets down his glass. Any woman. Any. Jae-hyun. Suhan's voice carries the faint edge of a warning. That's not a bet. That's just Tuesday for you. A quiet ripple of laughter. Jae-hyun doesn't smile. He rarely smiles. His face at 32 is the kind that gets described in magazines as severe and compelling. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that process everything without revealing anything. The kind of stillness that makes people in rooms unconsciously lower their voices. Then make it interesting, he says. You pick her. The silence that follows is different from before. Something shifts. Daniel, who has known Jae-hyun the longest, looks at him with an expression that might be concern if concern weren't so foreign to conversations like this one. Then he pulls out his phone, opens Instagram, scrolls. There's a gallery opening happening right now, he says. Downstairs. The private viewing we got invitations to. He turns his phone around. Her. On the screen. A woman laughing at something off camera. Head tilted back, natural hair, thick, gorgeous, unrestrained. Caught mid-movement like a painting deciding to live. She's wearing a rust-colored dress that does absolutely nothing to diminish her and absolutely everything to announce her. She's not looking at the camera. She never seems to be looking at the camera. Her name in the caption. Maya Coleman, art therapist and resident artist. Tonight's featured exhibition. She's American, Daniel adds. Been in Seoul 8 months working with a trauma recovery nonprofit. From what I hear, she doesn't date. Keeps to herself. Very focused. Jae-hyun studies the photo for exactly 4 seconds. Then he hands the phone back. 30 days, he says. No one shakes hands. They don't need to. Among men like these, words are contracts. What none of them say, what Jae-hyun will only understand much later, sitting on the floor of his apartment at 2 in the morning with nothing but barley tea going cold beside him, is that he didn't study that photograph because he was calculating. He studied it because something in her laugh made him forget, for 4 seconds, that he had a bet to win. He buried that thought immediately. He was very good at burying things. The gallery is on the 23rd floor, and it's already full when Jae-hyun arrives. He doesn't walk into rooms. He arrives in them. There's a difference, a quality of attention that precedes him, a subtle redistribution of energy as people register his presence and recalibrate their own posture. He's used to this. Has been since he was 19 and took over his father's company 18 months ahead of schedule and tripled its value in the first year. The attention is background noise now. Except tonight, for the first time in recent memory, not everyone turns. One person doesn't turn. Maya Coleman stands in front of her largest piece. A canvas roughly 5 feet tall, abstract but unmistakably emotional, blacks and deep golds and a red that seems to breathe. And she's talking to an older Korean woman with the expression of someone who is actually listening. Not performing listening. Actually doing it. Jaehyun watches her from the edge of the room for 3 full minutes. He tells himself he's assessing. Reading the room. Planning his approach. He's lying to himself. But he's excellent at that too. He doesn't approach her that night. He watches. He learns. And when the gallery begins to thin and a woman materializes at Maya's side. Short, bright eyes, natural hair pulled up, wearing a yellow dress and an expression that suggests she is approximately 3 seconds from saying something outrageous. He makes note of that too. The friend. He hears, from across the now quiet room, the friend say in a carrying voice, Maya, that man over there has been staring at you for literally 20 minutes. I need you to look up slowly and tell me I'm not hallucinating. And Maya, without looking up from her drink, says, You're hallucinating, Nikki. I am not hallucinating, he is fine as, Nikki. I'm just saying he looks like a K-drama and a business degree had a baby. Nikki, I will leave you here. Jaehyun turns away before either of them can catch him almost smiling. Almost. He finds her schedule within 48 hours. This is not difficult when you own the building where her nonprofit has its sole office. On Wednesday morning, at the coffee cart on the ground floor of the Kwan Foundation Center, which is, yes, his building, yes, he named a foundation after himself, he's aware, he is standing in line ahead of her when she arrives. He notices her. He turns. He lets his face do the thing it does. The controlled, precise version of a smile that has ended marriages and started obsessions. Maya Coleman looks at him the way you look at someone who is standing where you were planning to stand, which is to say, mildly inconveniently. You're in my spot, she says. He blinks. He has never been told he is in someone's spot. I apologize? I always stand at the end of this line so I can see the whole cart menu. You're tall. You're blocking it. He steps to the side. Not because he's flustered, he is absolutely not flustered, but because he's recalibrating. She orders without looking at him again. He finds himself ordering the same barley tea he always orders and then standing slightly too long trying to think of a second thing to say. She's already walking toward the elevator. He watches her go. Behind him, the coffee cart vendor. An older woman who has worked that cart for 6 years and has therefore watched Kwon Jaehyun charm approximately everyone in this building. Covers her mouth to hide her grin. He tries again on Friday. He arranges to be introduced at a mutual colleague's lunch. A genuine social occasion, nothing engineered, nothing he can be faulted for. He sits 2 seats down from Maya and watches her talk about her work. Art therapy with children who have survived domestic violence. The way she describes it isn't performative. She doesn't soften the language to make it easier for a lunch table full of suits. She says survived and trauma and what recovery actually looks like without apology, without flinching. She's the most interesting person in the room and the only one not trying to be. He inserts himself into the conversation at the right moment. He has a practiced instinct for this, and says something genuinely intelligent about trauma-informed research his foundation has been funding. Maya turns to look at him fully for the first time. I know that research, she says, and there's a slight sharpening of her attention that is not quite suspicion and not quite interest. It's assessment. She's doing to him what he does to rooms, reading, filing, concluding. Dr. Park's longitudinal study. I've cited it in 3 grant proposals. She's exceptional, he agrees. I've been trying to expand the program into the Busan satellite office. Maya nods once. I heard they're looking for clinical consultants. She tilts her head. Just slightly. Are you connected to that search? He pauses a half-beat too long. Maya puts down her fork. Mr. Kwan, if this is a job conversation, you could have emailed my office director. She stands, excuses herself from the table with the grace of someone who has ended conversations before they became problems her entire adult life, and leaves. Jaehyun sits very still. Daniel, across the table, is looking at his phone so he doesn't have to make eye contact. His shoulders are shaking. Nikki Hayes hears all of this at 9 p.m. that same Friday, sitting cross-legged on Maya's couch with a bowl of popcorn that she is taking very seriously. Wait, Nikki says. Wait. He was at the coffee cart. And at the lunch. Yes. And both times you just handled it. Maya. Nikki sets down the popcorn bowl with the gravity of someone setting down something sacred. That man is worth approximately $11 billion, and he is following you to coffee carts. He's not following me. It's the same building. Girl. Nikki's voice achieves a register that exists somewhere between prayer and intervention. His name is on the building. I know whose name is on the building. So you understand that he didn't need to go to that coffee cart. He has, presumably, a coffee machine made of gold in his office that grinds beans that were personally blessed by. Nikki. I'm serious. Maya. Nikki grabs her friend's wrist. Her voice drops from comedy to something real. When is the last time you let somebody in? Real talk. No deflection. No. I'm focused on my work. When was the last time? The apartment goes quiet in a different way. Maya looks at the painting on her own wall. A small piece, personal, not for exhibitions, deep browns and soft oranges. A figure standing at a window. She painted it the year after David. The year she stopped trusting herself to read people correctly. I'm here to work, she says finally. 8 more months. Then I go home to Atlanta. That's the plan. Nikki is quiet for a moment. Then she picks up the popcorn again. Okay, she says. Soft. No more jokes. Just, okay, baby. This is the thing about Nikki Hayes that people who only see the loud part miss. She knows when to stop. He sends flowers to her office on Monday. Not roses. He specifically didn't send roses because roses are what men send when they've read chapter 1 of a manual. He sent proteas. Dramatic, structural, the kind of flower that looks like it decided to be beautiful on its own terms and never asked anyone's permission. Maya's office director assumes they're from a donor. Maya, who knows better, donates them to the children's ward 2 floors up. Jae-hyun finds this out from the building's floral service contractor. He sits with this information for a long moment. Then, and he will not examine why, he finds himself smiling. Actually smiling. Small and private and aimed at nothing. He orders the same flowers sent to the children's ward every week from that point forward. Anonymous. No note. He sees her on a Thursday at 7 p.m., and this one is not engineered. He's working late, which is to say, he's sitting in the foundation conference room reading grant proposals because his actual office has too many windows and the Seoul skyline at dusk sometimes makes him feel something unspecified and uncomfortable. Something he doesn't have a name for. Something he doesn't want to name. He's pouring his 3rd cup of barley tea when he hears music. Not performed music. Not practiced music. Something small and unrehearsed drifting down the corridor. A woman humming something that takes him 3 measures to recognize as an old Motown song. The kind his Korean-American housekeeper used to sing when he was 7 years old and still young enough to find comfort in domestic sounds. He follows it without deciding to. Maya is in the open art space at the end of the hall. A room the foundation keeps available for non-profit partners after hours. She's working on a canvas, earbuds in one ear, and the humming is for herself, not for anyone. She hasn't heard him. She's in the state he's noticed artists sometimes reach, where the work and the person become briefly indistinguishable. On the canvas. Something he doesn't have language for yet. Figures. Reaching. The colors remind him of his mother's kitchen in the house he grew up in before she left. Warm yellows. A particular quality of light that he hasn't thought about in 20 years, and is thinking about right now with a force that surprises him. He stands in the doorway too long. She turns. No startled sound, no drama. She pulls out her earbud, looks at him and says, "How long have you been there?" "Not long." A lie. "I heard music." She looks at him with that measuring expression he's beginning to recognize. "It's late for you to still be here." I could say the same. "My deadline is real," she says. "This piece ships to a non-profit in Daegu next week." "What's your excuse?" He opens his mouth, closes it. "I don't like my office after dark," he says, and immediately wishes he'd said anything else, because it's true, and truth is not part of the plan. Maya studies him. She looks at him the way she looks at her paintings, not decoratively, but diagnostically, like she's trying to understand what's underneath. "That's surprisingly honest," she says. "I'm told I have my moments." She almost smiles. Not quite. The almost is enough to do something strange to his chest. "You can stay if you don't talk," she says, turning back to her canvas. I work better with someone in the room. I don't know why. I'm quiet, he says. I've noticed. He sits. He doesn't talk. He reads grant proposals for 2 hours while she paints, and the music from her single earbud sometimes drifts into the room, soft and unhurried, and outside Seoul is 42 floors of light and noise, and he is, for the first time in a long time, nowhere he is supposed to be. He doesn't examine that either, but it sits in him warm and unfamiliar, like tea you forgot was still hot. It becomes a Thursday thing. Neither of them names it. The second Thursday, she's already in the arts room when he arrives. She doesn't look up. She just tilts her head toward the chair he sat in last week, and he sits in it, and that's that. The third Thursday, she brings 2 cups from the cart downstairs, barley tea for him because she noticed what he always orders, and he notices that she noticed, and he doesn't say anything about it, just wraps both hands around the cup the way he did as a child when the Seoul winters got serious and warmth was not guaranteed. The fourth Thursday, she asks him, "Why did you really start the Trauma Foundation?" He answers without calculating first, which is how he knows the evening quiet has made him careless. "My mother left when I was 9. She told my father she wasn't built for the life he expected her to have. I didn't understand it then." He pauses. "I'm still not sure I understand it, but I know she wasn't wrong." Maya is quiet for a moment. Her brush moves. "My father left when I was 7, she says. "Different situation. But I know what it's like to build a whole personality around making sure you're never caught needing someone who could leave." He looks at her. She looks at her canvas. Neither of them says, "This is why we are both in our different ways alone." They don't need to. The room already knows. On the fifth Thursday, Nikki Hayes shows up. She appears in the doorway at 8:30 p.m. carrying takeout bags and wearing an expression that is simultaneously performing casualness and absolutely performing nothing. "Oh," she says, seeing Jae-hyun. "You're here again." "Ms. Hayes," he says. He has learned her name. "Mr. Billions." She sets down the bags without ceremony. "Maya, I brought dumplings and tteokbokki because I didn't know what kind of night it was. There's enough because I always bring enough." She turns to Jae-hyun with the energy of a woman who is giving someone exactly one chance to be human. "You want some?" "I would like that very much," he says. "Thank you." Nikki looks at him for a long moment, then at Maya, then back at him. She pulls out a third set of chopsticks from the bag as if she packed them knowing. She definitely packed them knowing. They eat in the art room at 8:30 p.m. and Nikki, who is in fact hilarious, tells a story about the time she accidentally signed up for a Korean language class thinking it was a cooking class and spent 4 weeks learning to say good morning and where is the bathroom before she realized the curriculum had never once mentioned a recipe. "For weeks," Maya says, shaking her head. "For weeks, Nikki." In my defense, Nikki says with enormous dignity, "The flyer said discover Korean culture and I interpreted that as food, which is a reasonable interpretation. Food is culture. You thought annyeonghaseyo was the word for spatula. It could have been." Jaehyun laughs. Actually laughs, the real one, the one that comes before he can decide whether to show it, sudden and unguarded and completely unlike the controlled sound he produces at business dinners. Both women look at him. He composes himself immediately, but it's too late. Maya watches him with an expression she won't be able to describe later but won't be able to forget. Like she just saw a door open in a wall she thought was solid. Nikki watches him with an expression that is significantly more complicated. Because Nikki Hayes has been Maya Coleman's best friend for 11 years and she has watched Maya give pieces of herself to people who didn't deserve them. And she has watched Maya take those pieces back and patch herself together and stand up again every single time. And she is looking at this man. This expensive, complicated, quietly laughing man, with the specific attention of someone who is deciding something important and taking her time about it. She doesn't say anything tonight, but she's decided something. It is day 21 when Nikki Hayes finds out. She hears it from Minjun's assistant at a corporate wellness event where the non-profit partners and the Kwan Foundation staff are being introduced. The assistant assumes Nikki already knows. Why would she not know? It happened at the rooftop party. It was a whole thing. Jae-hyun and his friends made the bet in front of at least 8 people who were not supposed to be listening, and gossip in professional circles moves faster than press releases. The assistant is halfway through telling it like it's amusing. "Can you believe 30 days any woman and they picked your friend," before she registers Nikki's face and stops talking. Nikki smiles. She smiles the smile of a woman who has just received information she needs time to process privately. "Thank you for telling me," she says pleasantly. She excuses herself at 4 p.m. She walks to the parking garage. She sits in her car. For the first 2 minutes she is very still. The kind of still that has nothing to do with calm. The next 4 minutes she cries. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way you cry when something confirms a fear you had been quietly carrying and hoping was wrong. She cries for Maya, who finally, started humming again while she painted. Who started bringing 2 cups of tea to a Thursday art room. Who said, "I don't know why I work better with someone in the room," like it wasn't the most hopeful thing she'd said in 3 years. The last 5 minutes, Nikki Hayes gets angry. And Nikki Hayes angry is a specific and focused thing. It doesn't look like shouting. It looks like someone who has made a decision. She drives to Maya's apartment. Maya opens the door and reads Nikki's face in less than a second. This is what 11 years of friendship looks like. No preamble needed, no performance of normalcy. Maya steps back. Nikki comes in, sits on the couch, puts both hands flat on her knees like she's steadying herself. "I need you to hear this from me," Nikki says. "And I need you to hear all of it before you say anything." Maya sits. She folds her hands in her lap. She is very still. Nikki tells her everything. The bet, the rooftop, the 30 days. The men sitting around a table choosing her name like they were selecting a target on a map. Jaehyun saying any woman like women were geography to be crossed and conquered and left behind. Day by day, as Nikki speaks, Maya's face does not change. This is the thing about Maya Coleman that people mistake for coldness. When something truly devastates her, her face goes very quiet. Not blank, quiet. The way a room goes quiet after something breaks in it. It went this way when her father called to say he couldn't make her college graduation because something came up. It went this way when she found the messages on David's phone at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday and sat on the bathroom floor for 2 hours before she could stand up. It goes this way now. When Nikki finishes, the apartment is completely silent. "How many days?" Maya says. 21. Nikki's voice is steady with effort. "He has 9 days left." Maya stands, walks to her window. The Seoul lights are out there, indifferent and enormous, 42 floors, somewhere above them a penthouse that belongs to a man she has been. "The Thursdays," she says, and her voice is barely above a whisper. "Maya, the barley tea." She stops. Her hands are at her sides, perfectly still. "He, the flowers for the children's ward." Nikki. Every week. Anonymous. And I thought, her voice does something complicated and then steadies. "I told him about my father. I told him things I don't." She stops again. "I told him things." Nikki is up off that couch and has her arms around Maya before the sentence can finish falling. Maya doesn't cry immediately. She holds herself together for a long moment, both arms at her sides, chin up, the posture of a woman who has survived things before and knows survival is possible. She holds it. She holds it. And then she doesn't. She cries the way you cry when it isn't just this, when this is the thing that lands on top of every other thing you've been carrying. Not just Jaehyun. David too. Her father too. Every time she decided to try again and found out trying again just meant finding a new way to end up here in her own apartment, held by the only person who has never once let her down, sobbing in a way that comes from somewhere below the professional and the capable and the woman who keeps her face still in a crisis. From somewhere small. Somewhere that is still, after everything, astonished that this keeps happening. Nikki holds her. She doesn't say it's okay. She doesn't say he'll regret it or you're better off or any of the things that are true but are not what this moment needs. She holds her friend and she cries too. Silently. Her own tears falling into Maya's hair. Because this is what Nikki Hayes does. She doesn't stand outside Maya's pain and manage it. She gets inside it with her. "Your pain lives in me too. I will carry half. This is love. The real kind. Not the romantic kind. Older than that." Nikki leaves at midnight. She hugs Maya at the door for a long time without saying anything. Then she pulls back, holds Maya's face in both hands, looks at her directly. "You are not what happened to you," she says. "You hear me?" Maya nods. "Say it back." "Nikki." Maya Coleman. "Say it back." A breath. "I am not what happened to me." "That's right." Nikki releases her. picks up her bag. At the door, she turns back one more time. And for what it's worth, I think part of him was real. I think that makes it worse, and I think it also matters, and I don't know what to do with that yet. But I wanted to say it. She leaves. Maya stands in her quiet apartment. At 12:47 a.m., her phone rings. Jaehyun. He has been calling every evening for the past week. It's become a thing. She picks up. They talk about nothing important. His voice losing its formal edges as the night gets late. Soul quiet around them both. She picks up on the second ring. Maya. His voice has that quality. It gets late at night, softer, the architecture worn down. How many days are left? She says. The silence on the other end is exactly the kind that answers the question before the answer comes. Who told you? He says. His voice has changed completely. Every soft thing gone. Does it matter? Yes, it matters to me. What matters to you? Her voice is quiet, controlled. More devastating for it than shouting would be. Tell me, Jaehyun. I genuinely want to understand. Was it fun? When I told you about my father, was that a good day for the game? Did you go back and tell them? She's opening up. I've almost got her. No. The word comes out immediately, no preparation. No. Maya, I never told them anything. I stopped giving them updates after the second week. After the gallery, after the coffee cart, Stop. She breathes. One breath. I need you to understand something. I am not a woman who is easy to fool. I do this professionally. I read people, I see what's underneath, it is literally my job. And I am not naive. I have been hurt before and I know what it looks like and I still. Her voice fractures. Just slightly. Just once. Like a hairline crack in something that has been holding weight too long. You still got through. Jaehyun is standing in his penthouse, 42 floors of empty apartment around him, and he feels the thing he has been carefully, expertly not feeling for 3 weeks crack open completely. All at once. Like a structure that was never as solid as it looked. I know, he says. It is the smallest, truest thing he has said in years. Don't call me again. She hangs up. Jaehyun stands very still for a very long time. Then he sits down on the floor. Not the couch. The floor. He doesn't turn on the lights. He sits in the dark on the floor of his $11 million apartment, and outside the city keeps going the way cities do. Indifferent, continuous, unbothered by whatever is happening to one man on one floor of one tower. After a long time he calls Daniel. She found out. A pause. Jaehyun. I need you to know, he says, his voice very even, very careful. The voice he uses when the only thing between him and something he can't manage is control. That I have not felt anything real in a very long time, and I found it, and I built it on a lie, and now it's gone. He stops. I ruined it before I even understood what it was. Daniel is quiet. I'm going to fix it, Jaehyun says. How? He doesn't answer yet, because the answer is still forming, not in the part of him that strategizes, not in the part that calculates and positions and manages outcomes. Somewhere else. Somewhere deeper and less practiced and far more frightened. Go to sleep, Daniel, he says. He stays on the floor until the soul sky begins to lighten. He watches the dark become gray, become gold through his floor-to-ceiling windows. And for the first time in 23 years, Kwon Jaehyun lets himself feel the full weight of who he has been. It is not comfortable. It is necessary. 9 days later. The annual Kwon Foundation Gala is the largest philanthropic event in Seoul's private sector calendar. 500 guests. Every significant family in Korean business. His father, Senior Chairman Kwon Byung-soo, who speaks to his son in the register of obligation and expectation and has never once in Jaehyun's memory spoken to him in the register of pride. International press. Every newspaper that has ever printed the words Kwon Jaehyun next to eligible bachelor and empire, and Korea's most powerful under 40. Maya Coleman is here because the art therapy program is one of this year's featured nonprofit initiatives. She is presenting the program's year in review alongside 3 partner organizations. She knows he will be here. She considered not coming. She thought about it for exactly 1 day and then put on her white dress and called Nikki and said, "My work is bigger than my feelings. Pick me up at 7. She wears white. Not because it's strategic. Because white is the color she wears when she has made a decision to be fully, unapologetically herself regardless of what room she's walking into. Grandma May taught her that. White ain't for surrender, baby. White is for when you know exactly who you are. Nikki Hayes arrives in a red dress that makes her look like a declaration of war, which is entirely on purpose. Ground rules, Nikki says in the elevator. If he approaches you, I'm standing right there. If he says something wrong, I don't care about this venue. If he makes you cry in this building, I will. Nikki, I'm just establishing parameters. I know. Thank you. Nikki squeezes her hand. Let's go. They walk in. The gala is exactly as enormous and impressive as everything Kwon Jae-hyun touches. Crystal and candlelight and the kind of floral arrangements that take a team of 12 an entire day. Seoul's most powerful people moving through the room in their finest, performing generosity with the practiced ease of people who have never had to think too hard about money. Maya does what she always does in rooms like this. She works. She speaks to the program officers, reviews the presentation materials, thanks the donors who approach her with genuine warmth and zero interest in their names. She is good at her job in every room she enters, and this one is no different. She does not look for him. He finds her during the cocktail hour. He comes directly. No engineering. No approach from the optimal angle, no positioning, no strategy. He walks through the room to where she is standing and he stops in front of her and he says her name the way you say the name of something you know you're not entitled to. Maya. She looks at him. She decided in advance how this would go. Polite, brief, professional. She is an adult. She has walked through harder rooms than this. Mr. Kwon. I need 10 minutes. His voice is quiet. The formality is there, but the weaponized distance is gone, replaced by something that has no armor over it. Not to explain myself. Not to ask for anything. 10 minutes. Nikki Hayes, who has appeared at Maya's left elbow with the silent efficiency of someone who has been watching the room all evening, says in a voice like a scalpel. One wrong word. I don't care how tall you are or whose name is on this building. Something moves across Jaehyun's face when he looks at Nikki. Not amusement. Something closer to recognition. The look of a man who understands, for the first time, what it means to have someone in your corner like that, and what it means that he has never been that for anyone. I understand, he says to her. He means it. She can tell he means it, and it doesn't make her stand down, but it registers. Maya says, 5 minutes. They step into the corridor that runs along the outer wall of the hall, floor-to-ceiling glass on one side, Seoul sprawling in every direction below, the city doing what it always does, enormous and indifferent and beautiful. Jaehyun stands at the glass with his back half-turned for a moment. She watches his face do something she has not seen it do in all the hours they have spent in that art room. Struggle visibly. The control he wears like a second skin, working hard to hold something in and losing. The bet was about control, he says. His voice is even. Just barely. My entire life I have turned people into things I could manage. I did not do this consciously, or perhaps I did without knowing why. Because when people are manageable, when they are a variable I can predict and direct, they cannot surprise me. Cannot leave without warning. Cannot. He stops. Starts again. My father taught me, not in words but in everything he did, that relationships are acquisitions. You identify what you want, you secure it, you maintain it. I told myself for 32 years that I had outgrown that lesson. He looks at her. I had not. She is quiet. The night of the gallery, I looked at your photograph and I felt something I could not immediately categorize. A pause, like the admission costs something. My immediate response was to convert it into a game. Because games have rules. Because games have outcomes I can control. Something shifts in his expression. You cannot be controlled, Maya. I learned that within the first week. I kept pretending I hadn't learned it because learning it meant admitting what was actually happening. She waits. What I told you about my mother. He meets her eyes. What you told me about your father. The Thursdays. None of that was calculation. I need you to know that even if it changes nothing. That was, for the first time in longer than I can accurately remember, the truth. Just the truth. Nothing managed. The Seoul lights are very bright outside. Do you know the budget for this gala? He asks. She frowns slightly. That's not. 320 million won. Every significant relationship in Korean business is in that room. My father is in that room. He came specifically because this event matters to the family name. He looks at the door back to the hall. In approximately 4 minutes, I am going to walk to that stage. And I am going to tell 500 people what I did. Maya stares at him. The bet. His terms. What it reveals about how I have lived. His voice remains steady, but the steadiness is clearly costing him. She can see it. She has spent months learning to see beneath his surfaces, and she can see it. I am going to name the forfeit publicly. Donate the full value to your program, and to every other program in that room that I have funded for business reasons rather than human ones. He looks at her directly, no deflection. I am not doing this to win you back. I want to be clear about that. I am doing it because I am not willing to be the man who made that bet for one more day. And the only way I know to make that true, to make it real rather than a private intention I can negotiate with later, is to make it impossible to pretend otherwise. Maya is quiet for a long moment. You know what this costs you, she says. Yes. Your reputation in that room is built on a version of myself I am finished with. Your father will be angry. Something crosses his face. Grief and something like relief existing in the same breath. My father has been angry at me my entire life for various reasons. I have significant experience with his anger. I will survive it. He pauses. This I might not survive staying silent about. She looks at him, at the sharp jaw and the dark eyes that she has spent months reading and that keep, even now, showing her rooms she didn't know were there. Jae-hyun, she says quietly, you hurt me. I know. Not in a small way. Not in a we can laugh about this later way. I know. He doesn't defend it, doesn't qualify it or contextualize it or manage it. He looks at her and lets it be the full weight of what it is, unmitigated, his to carry. I know exactly what I broke. I will know it for a long time. She is quiet. From the hall, the murmur of 500 guests settling. The opening notes of the evening program beginning. Go do what you need to do, she says. He holds her gaze for one more moment, searching for something, not finding it, accepting the not finding with the dignity of a man who understands he has no right to look for it right now. He nods once. He starts back toward the hall. Jae-hyun. He stops, turns. I'm going to watch, she says. He looks at her for one more second. Then he walks through the door. He walks to the stage the way he has always walked into rooms, with presence, with intention. But tonight the intention is different. Tonight he is not arriving. Tonight he is dismantling. He takes the microphone from the evening's host with a quiet word. The host steps back, surprised, but does not resist. No one resists Kwon Jae-hyun in his own building. The room quiets. 500 people turn toward the stage. His father, in the third row, sits with the posture of a man who has built his life on the performance of composure and is currently performing it very hard. Jae-hyun looks out at the room. He speaks for 4 minutes. He does not use euphemism. He does not use the careful language of corporate accountability or the managed vocabulary of public relations. He says, I made a bet that I could manipulate a woman into feeling something for me within 30 days. I chose her the way you choose a target. I treated her, and the concept of human connection, as a transaction to be executed. I want everyone in this room to know this because it is consistent with how I have moved through every professional and personal relationship I have built, and I am done with it. He names the bet. He names its terms. He names Minjun and Suhan and Daniel. He does not spare his friends, though his voice carries something that is not quite apology and not quite exposure. It is witness. He is bearing witness to what happened. He names the forfeit publicly, before the foundation's legal team, before family, before every relationship that has professional consequence. He names the amount. He names Maya Coleman's program. He says her name clearly, without hesitation, into a microphone in front of 500 people. He says, she did not need saving. She never needed saving. She needed honesty, which I was not capable of giving her at the start, and slowly became capable of giving her too late. The order of those two things is something I will carry. He says, the man who made that bet 3 weeks ago built his life on the belief that people are manageable and connection is a liability. I am not interested in being that man anymore. Tonight is where he ends. He sets down the microphone. The room is completely silent. His father's face, in the third row, has gone the particular gray of a man confronting something he cannot control, cannot contain, cannot manage into a shape that serves the family narrative. It is, in its way, the most honest expression Jaehyun has ever seen on his father's face. Daniel Cho, standing at the back of the room, is making no effort whatsoever to hide that his eyes are bright. He is looking at his oldest friend with an expression that is close to grief and closer to pride. And at the edge of the room, standing very still in a white dress, Maya Coleman watches the man on that stage, who is not performing, who is bleeding in the most controlled and deliberate way she has ever witnessed a human being bleed in public. And she feels the thing she has been refusing to feel since the second Thursday in that art room. She feels it anyway. Beside her, Nikki Hayes finds Maya's hand in the dark and holds it in both of hers without looking at her, without saying a word. Sometimes love is just, I am here. I have you. Whatever happens next, I have you. He finds her in the corridor again after. The crowd noise from the hall is a murmur through the walls and no one follows them here. He stops at a respectful distance. The distance of a man who is not presuming anything. My father would like to speak with me, he says. His voice is composed. Dry, almost the way it gets when he is being honest about something painful without performing the pain. I'm told it will be a significant conversation. Probably, she agrees. Worth it. She looks at him. Why? Because I'm tired. It is the simplest, most unarmored thing he has ever said. I have been performing since I was 9 years old, Maya. I am so profoundly tired of it. He looks down at his hands. The hands that signed the bet's terms, that wrapped around a cup of barley tea in an art room on Thursday nights, that have built a significant portion of Seoul's skyline and have never once, until recently, reached for something real. I don't know how to be the person I am on Thursday evenings in a painting room all the time yet. I don't have that skill. But I want to learn it. I want to learn it more than I have wanted anything in a very long time. She is quiet for a moment. I'm not asking for forgiveness tonight, he says. I'm not asking for a second chance or for you to tell me it's okay because it is not okay and I know that. He stops. When he continues, his voice has changed, something younger in it, something that doesn't know how to be formal because it predates the formality by decades. I needed at least one person in that room to matter. Someone I wasn't performing for. Someone I was choosing over the entire architecture of what I've built. He meets her eyes. It was enough just to have you watching. It was enough. Maya exhales. She thinks about the painting in the arts room, the figures with their arms outstretched, reaching toward something just outside the frame. She painted it 2 months into Seoul and she didn't know then what they were reaching for. She thinks maybe she knows now. She thinks about Grandma May in Atlanta, 73 years old and sharper than anyone Maya has ever met, who told her once, sitting on the back porch with sweet potato pie and the Georgia evening coming in, "Baby, love is not something you fall into. Love is something you choose. And the man worth having is the one who keeps choosing even when choosing costs him something real. Don't settle for a man whose love is easy. Easy love is just comfort in disguise." She thinks about David, who chose himself. About her father, who chose distance. About the years she spent deciding that protecting herself mattered more than risking herself, and how that decision kept her safe and kept her small in equal measure. She looks at Kwon Jae-hyun, who just paid an enormous public price to choose something true, and who did it not to earn her back, but because he could no longer live in the version of himself that made the bet. That distinction matters to her more than she expected it to. I'm going back to Atlanta in 7 months, she says. He nods. I have work to do here first. Real work. And I don't do anything halfway. I know, he says. I've noticed. And I need you to understand. Her voice is clear, direct, no softness covering the edges. I am not a project. I am not here to fix you or heal you or complete whatever arc you've decided you're on. I have my own healing, my own arc. I am a whole person with a full life and I need whoever is in it to understand that from the beginning. Yes, he says. Simply. No qualification. She looks at him for a long moment. But, she says, and the word sits between them like a door opening. I don't think it would be the worst thing if we had dinner once, not to fix anything, not to decide anything, just, he says, she agrees. Something happens in his expression, the thing she saw in the gallery on the very first night, Before he knew she could see him, before the game was in play. Something unguarded. Something that was there before the bet, and despite it and underneath all of it. The thing she read in his face when he thought he was turned away far enough to hide it. "I know a restaurant," he says. "Nothing impressive. The opposite of impressive. The owner's Halmiani has been making doenjang jjigae in the same kitchen for 38 years, and she will try to feed us until we physically cannot accept more food. And she will succeed, and we will leave unable to move, and it will be the best meal you've had in Seoul." Maya looks at him. "Barley tea," he adds. "She makes her own." Maya Coleman, art therapist, survivor, a woman who paints figures reaching toward light, who carried her grief from Atlanta to Seoul and kept working anyway, who was chosen as a target and refused to become one. Looks at the man in front of her. "What time?" she says. And Kwon Jae-hyun, billionaire empire builder, the man who once cataloged human connection as a liability to be managed, does something he has not done in 23 years without first deciding to do it. He smiles. The real one. The one that starts in his eyes before his face knows it's happening. The one he forgot he had. Down the corridor, Nikki Hayes rounds the corner with her phone already out, fully prepared to document whatever she finds, because she has been Nikki Hayes her entire life and documentation is instinct. She stops. She sees them. Maya in white and the man in the dark suit, standing in the golden light from the corridor windows, smiling at each other like two people who just survived something enormous and are surprised to be standing on the other side of it. Nikki Hayes covers her mouth with both hands. She does not document this. Some things are not for documentation. Some things are just for witnessing. She stands there for 10 seconds. Then she turns around, walks back to the edge of the hall, finds a quiet corner, and takes out her phone. She calls Atlanta. It rings twice. "Grandma May," Nikki says when the line picks up. "I need to tell you about this man." Grandma May Coleman, 73 years old, raised in Atlanta, Georgia, has seen 6 decades of people falling in and out of love and has opinions about all of it. She says, without missing a single beat, "Chilly. I've been waiting on this call." Nikki laughs so hard she has to put her hand on the wall to stay standing. Down the corridor, Maya hears it. That laugh, the one she has known for 11 years, the one that means Nikki is completely undone by something, and something in her chest, something she has been holding carefully closed for a very long time, opens. Not all the way, not yet, but enough. Enough to breathe through. Enough to begin. If the story took you all the way through, if you felt Maya's pain, if you cheered for Nikki, if Jaehyun surprised you at the end, then you already know what to do. A like takes 2 seconds and tells us to keep creating stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that real love asks something of you, and the right person will pay the price. Subscribe because the next story is already coming, and I promise you it hits just as hard. And drop a comment right now. Did Jaehyun earn his second chance? Did Nikki steal the whole story? And most importantly, do you have a Grandma May in your life? Because if you do, she already knew this moment was coming. They always do. See you in the next one.